This is like behind the scenes, never heard before Neofeud 2 script. So if you want your brand spanking, fresh out of the silver spook brain oven Neofeud 2, you're gonna have to like listen closely. And this is that blue dude. Again, this is that blue dude, that blue machine dude that's pulling the side of that cop car off and using it as a shield. That dude is the main character. Nostromo. Pretty sure that's my name. But it's hard to tell when your brain is rented corporate hardware. Bits of your childhood memories overwritten by soft drink ads, NSA neural sniffers, crypto coin miners, inane tweets, like pages of family photo albums blotted out by tech giants, used as scratch paper for fake news. Erasing you bit by bit, till all that's left is a husk, an ideal consumer, the perfect soldier, the perfect citizen, according to a checklist in a spreadsheet somewhere. Oh, and your consciousness is swimming with the long tentacles of thought police algorithms, feeling through your synapse clusters for pearls of wisdom to slurp up. Strangling green shoots of rebellion, anarchism, anti-capitalism, other subversive ideologies struggling to break through the cage of 24/7 propaganda. Plus a Swiss cheese of PTSD and amphetamine rot don't help matters. Yeah, I'm pretty fucked up. But then, so are most people who don't have the millions to buy an ideal body and an intrusion-free consciousness. Thankfully, the Red Clinics helped jailbreak my mind from its DRM. Sadly, the doc who cut out my puppet strings is dead now for breaching Omnizon Brain as a Service TOS. Unauthorized mind hacking and frying brainwave monitors with targeted EMP blasts from a transcranial subducer. It's a big no-no. Actually, what most likely signed his death warrant was being a socialist, which is a worse crime than murder in Neoliberon. Punishable by perma-unemployment. Or, if you start getting free healthcare and education to people on a large scale, you're met with an extrajudicial death squad, then blamed on gang violence or a lone wolf sniper with a memorable middle name. Whatever sticks in the media. The SWAT team they sent in is dead now, too, or at least the vat-bred bodies their consciousnesses were embedded in. A smear of sinew, blood, bone, and shredded tactical black uniform coating the inside of the rusted off-grid shipping container lab. It was the least I could do for the comrade who freed my mind from its prison. Solidarity forever, Dr. Romero. I left that bloody face, that bloody serial number in a dumpster, blew the lab into a crater of hot slag with a thermion bomb. It'll take them a while to figure out what shell my ghost is in now, if they ever do. Nostromo. Most shorten it to Stromo or Strom. I don't give a shit. My ex-wife, my humanoid replication partner, called me Stormy. Maybe it was the turbulent silver eyes the Space Marine Corps left me, like Category 7 hurricanes from satellite view. It wasn't a trick of the light playing off synthetic iris and lipochrome either. My eyes were drowning me in idiotic 140-character bleats from the douchebag passing for a president, cyber dick enlargement spam, free opioid trials, 40 million credit scams from princes claiming to be the scions of the Bezos-Zuckenstein family, and conspiracy tube videos about flat planets and reptilian overlords. Red Doc Romero helped me with that too. Maybe Stormy was the way I'd storm out of the room when I'd lose an argument over money we never had, especially after they gutted the VA, nuked social services from orbit. Homeless and overdosed bodies piling up in the streets like a great flood of neglect, all to pay for quadrillionaire strato palaces and ritzy resorts for the bloated generals who sent me to massacre innocents off-world. Come to think of it, when they cut off my PTSD meds and therapy vouchers, that's when I started digging trenches in the front yard and smashing holes through kitchen tables, staring down the barrel of a pulsar rifle at 3 a.m. A downward spiral of steel and oil. Dark spiral, like the skeletal remains of that university we daisy-cut on Venusia with antimatter and photon missiles. All the books, cement, girder, and 10,000 broken bodies of smoldering. Just that black snarl of twisted metal staircase to nowhere, black bones against a blood-red sky. Torn pages on fire. The Venusians' blood was green, though. And that made it okay for the generals, the executives, who made a yacht payment for every torpedo dropped, scored a coke-filled penthouse for every indigenous planet strip mine. That's what they told the citizens anyway. Don't cry. We're not killing people. They're basically insects. Their children bled green, too. Brighter, clearer, like fresh lime juice. And their kids' bones were thin, like birds. They broke easy in my hand, in my hard steel hands, pulling their bodies out from under collapsed libraries and hospitals. I taste bitter gun oil with my military-issue tongue and hear the child's silent, blood-choked screams, see her bright anti-freeze gore all over my skull-caving polyminium hands, the rotten tree branch crunching sound of that kid's leg shattering over and over, blood for every color of the rainbow, so many planets, over and over and over and over. Some days I'd be happy to lose the memory of that bright green on my carbon black hands, lose those kids to some Neural OS firmware update or a Grand Theft Astro trailer, or even a moronic tweet from the so-called leader of the free galaxy. But I know now that I can't. I need those memories as much as it hurts. I need to remember who I am and what I did to know what I need to do. A couple times, after a screaming match leaving my wife in tears, I'd punch through the 6-inch Dorithium-crete wall, got on in my lightning cycle, sped off at 200 miles an hour on a cliffside, hoping my body would end up shredded to shrapnel along a highway or a rusting aquarium ornament at the bottom of the poison sea. I know now that was a poor way of dealing with anger issues, a not only expensive but trauma-inducing move for my family, violence begetting violence over and over and over and over. The AI therapist tells me so as it scrawls pictures of electric sheep onto holographic yellow legal pads. I imagine that's what Eliza is scrawling anyway. Do you have dreams of violence during your nightly recharge cycle? Eliza crosses a translucent anime-proportioned leg over the other. Yeah, just told you so. I stare blankly through the white noise of glitching overlays. And how does that make you feel? Not great. She nods, drawing more electric sheep, crosses and uncrosses her legs again. Why does she keep doing that? What happened to Tabitha? I want to talk to a real person. I am a real person, even if I'm virtual. Don't be an anthrocentrist, she says, pushing up pink cat eye glasses over matte white cheekbones and anime eyes 2 sizes too large. You're a construct, a few thousand lines of code. You ask me one of 3 questions with identical intonation every time, and you never listen to what I'm actually saying. It's not even particularly good code. She flushes a rosy red embarrassment. Strokes appear across saucer-eyed eyes, and a big blue teardrop drips from her temple with a cartoon sound effect. Boop. The AI was probably programmed by a tech entrepreneur, son of the Bezos-Zuckenstein dynasty, who learned social interaction exclusively from dating sims and $6,000 a month rent-a-girlfriend sugar babies. I'm sorry if you're unhappy with my performance. Feel free to B-mail Uplift Corp with your thoughts and concerns, she says, frowning. I can't send brain mail. My head jack's broken. I omit the part about having my brain professionally broken. Humans are okay at therapy, but artificial intelligences are much more efficient, Eliza says, a cyan aura around her as her tone becomes more annoyingly saccharine. We're there for you 24/7. I never get tired of listening, and we're modeled after leading transhuman psychology experts. We are the state of the art. I'm suddenly bombarded by an IMAX theater of charts, graphs, and shiny, smiling TED Talk New Age music canned for Eliza's spontaneous corporate sales pitch. You mean they laid off all the actual person social services workers and replaced them with trumped-up chatbots that are probably just sucking more data out of mental health patients to sell to the highest bidder? A literal sad emoji cartoon appears. You sound like you need a pick-me-up. Here are some coupons for self-care items like bath bombs, popular video games, or just buy a t-shirt that expresses your personality. I'm a robot. I don't take baths. Never mind bath bombs. How is shopping for some tchotchkes gonna help me with this serious PTSD shit? They'll work wonders, I promise. You mean they're cheaper than my actual medications and this therapy AI corporation is taking kickbacks to peddle clothing and games and soap for other corporations? Of course not. You're funny. That's good. Big happy face emoji. I leave without my meds. I was born out of a furnace, my constituent parts die-cast in a for-profit prison factory in New San Fran, a humanoid machine assembled by other machines, and meat slaves in a lunar penal colony. My fathers were a dozen people of the wrong color, the wrong substrate, the wrong species or income level, given 30 to life for nabbing a pint of milk to feed hungry kids, or the crime of standing on a ghetto block and breathing while black. I'll never meet them, the people who made me, the scientists in some whitewashed lab who dreamt up my neural substrate, the champagne-slurping white shoe who raked in billions selling armies of kill machines just like me, just to the galactic military-industrial complex. I don't have baby pictures, no cake and ice cream and bouncy castle birthdays growing up. I don't even know my actual birthday. That memory was eaten by a Coca-Cola ad or a Flat Earth video or a hateable POTUS I'll tweet a long time ago. But I do remember the day Ella found me, like the big Inception birthday party I never had. Best day of my life in a lot of ways. I was rotting in Neoliberon's terrestrial tent city, working 3 starvation wage side hustles, sleeping in the back of a 40-year-old Yasutoya ground car. Bumper was duct tape on and had black trash bags for windows. That day I was sanding the serial numbers off of a stolen hype-tech cyberarm. My rust bucket mech appendage had glitched out, caused a car crash, and got me axed for my mover ride-sharing gig job. Though it wasn't that big of a deal since the corporation kicked all the drivers to the curb and replaced them with AI the next week. You doing okay there, friend? A cop poked her head in the least smashed up window of my van. I could feel the terror welling up in my wetware, even though that I was zonked out of my E-mind on Mythium. Mythium, a very illegal Schedule C cyber narcotic for sentient machines. I didn't want to end up in the tank and get my van hauled off, my clothes, ID, consciousness card, and all my possessions trash compacted to smithereens for the crime of being homeless. The Mythium would get me tossed in a for-profit prison, making those Omnizon VR headsets and sewing underwear for 25 cents an hour in a 6x8 cell. Yeah, officer, of course. I'm just grinding some rust off of the body of my car here, I lied, my old synthetic vocal cords slurring phonemes together into a long, rusty sigh. From the inside of the vehicle? She quirked an incredulous brow. At least I thought she did. It's a bad idea to make eye contact with law enforcement while you're a siliconth. I've only been parked here for a day, I swear. I'll get this car out of here immediately. I lied again, trying to find the car keys under the empty canisters of compressed air and WD-40 with palsied metal fingers. A fat vial of glowing green cyber narcotic rolled out from under a pile of dirty laundry. I was praying to every god that I thought existed that she wouldn't see it. Relax, I'm not here to take you into the station. She flicked a neon blue tumble of hair out of her face. Human chocolate colored, from that Earth continent. I think it was called Wakanda? Yeah, what? Actually, I was like, yeah, can I help you? I was like, actually, that's what I'm here for, she said. Anyway, I'm fucking this up. You got a trippy haircut for a narc. I'll give you that. Kudos for committing to the commie punk shtick, I said, letting down my guard and releasing the pistol grip of the RD-19 duct tape under my seat. I'm actually not a commie. I'm an anarcho-syndicalist, but we don't need to deep dive into theory right now. She started. I didn't know what any of those words meant at the time. I thought she was just here to plant some illegal downloads in my wetware and cuff me for piracy. We're from the Egalite Cooperative, a decentralized federation of anti-hierarchical societies. I can't do much for you here, but if you'd like to come back with us, we can have an aerocar arranged to transport you to our hospital and our cybernetic refurb care facility. Really? I heard all that socialist I heard all that socialism is just pie in the sky stuff. And that you guys are across the radiated lambs. I can barely afford the I can barely afford the autono taxi fee to go 8 blocks. Don't worry, transportation and transhuman healthcare will be covered by our Universal Basic Services policy, free of charge. Contrary to Utopia's plutocratic propaganda, we can provide for everyone because we have no neo-feudal quintillionaires, unlike this hellish wasteland pretending to be a city. That all sounds too good to be true. Well, what have I got to lose? Better than servicing toxic, better than slumming it down here in this fucking homeless tent city. We got into her car. Took off, floated up above the million person endless homeless villages, over the endless blocks and blocks of unoccupied apartments. The rich, the poor, that's just how it's... Wait, the rich, the poor, that's just how it is. It sucks, but it's the way things are. I shrugged the carbon fiber and tarnished steel shoulder, flecks of rust spraying off, glinting like dying fireflies in the crimson glare of a Coca-Cola hollow advert that we were passing. That's the way things are here in Neoliberon, but that's not the way that things have to be. This is an engineered hellscape. It's an artificial scarcity. There are 10,000 homes and apartments for every homeless person in the mega sprawl. She gestured up at the 100-story apartment building. Luxury condos sided with gold gargoyles, fluted Greek columns of ivory. Do you notice how all the lights are off? They're unoccupied. They need it that way. They need the millions of gray collars like yourself, slum dwellers, struggling to make rent, dying on the street, to prop up a pyramid scheme, an interstellar pyramid scheme of ever-escalating housing prices. So, what's your point? The system has winners and losers. I mean, it's just capitalism. We all know it's stacked against us non-humans and the poor, but I mean, that's just the way it is. Except, it isn't. This is by design. Kings and queens used to sit on thrones of gold and jewel. Now they sit on thrones made of stacked $100 bills. But, I mean, there's no alternative. Communism left 100 billion dead. And where did you hear that? On BSNBC? GNN? Your corporate-controlled social media feed? Yes, the Sylvanon fully automated interstellar communist republic was riddled with famine and war. But what the propagandists conveniently leave out is that it was the axis of capitalists. The Bazon, Clintonia, Gatesland, who nuked the communist rice and wheat fields from orbit, caused the deaths of billions with financial sanctions, denying medicines to children, then invaded with Star Destroyers, Death Stars, and transhuman space marines just like you. Beamed you down to turn their mountains into volcanic glass, burned their cities, and invaded their towns with pulsar rifles and spider tanks. And then they blame all the havoc and death on socialism. Indigenous peoples were living sustainably in their planet's environments, like this one, not turning their planets into smoldering piles of fossil fuel ash, wasteland, and homeless village for thousands of years. On Earth, Alpha Centauri 7, all along Orion's shoulder, and countless other worlds. It wasn't until the arrival of the greedy, utopian humans, the Neofeudal elite who ruined their own solar system with their greed, that things started going downhill in this galaxy. Even if you're right, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What we're going to do about it. Miles, we flew for an hour, and I was getting bored. This is a really elaborate practical joke, even for a Bazon cop, I said, incredulously, staring out of the Yasutoya's aircar's windshield. Miles upon miles of foul landfill, trash mountains the size of Himalayas, surrounded by sludgy black swamps of spilled fossil fuel and dying ecosystem. We've been flying for hours past not a single living tree, just endless arboreal graveyards, skeletal gray limbs, and great billowing plumes of wildfire. Not a splash of green. Where is this so-called socialist paradise you're talking about? Where is it? Life on this planet is as dead as your so-called ideology. I scoffed, shaking my head at the apocalyptic hellscape, the terminal fate of countless worlds I'd been deployed to. It was inevitable. We passed ancient beached freighters, defunct oil platforms, crashed starships leaking fluorescent green streams of radioactive caconium, 100-foot behemoth walkers genuflecting before a flagless flagpole that once waved the banner of the human colonizer. The Colossus antimatter blasters had long rusted off, their empty barrels now serving as makeshift sweatshop facilities for the scrappers who harvested nickel and gold with child labor. We got past great craters where the sacred temples, homes, and farms of the indigenous arthropod-like species of this planet had once lived before they were bombed to oblivion, enslaved. The world was reclaimed and renamed as Bazon 426. The 427th colony of the Bezos Zuckensteins hadn't fared much better. We passed the hulking Z-99 Starkiller warships used in the invasion, left to be eaten by a trillion chisel taps of acid rain, along with the bodies of neural-locked kill machines like myself. Kill switch like a toy soldier in the field, a disposable gadget before you come back and be red ink, needing PTSD treatment or worse, become an anti-war veteran. I was one of the lucky ones. The abandoned colonial mothership was immense, rising many miles into the stratosphere, like a small geodesic moon of steel had collided with Bazon during a brief divine suspension of the laws of physics. Two faint letters, C and an O, were stenciled in mile-wide capitals on the vast orb, all that remained of a neo-feudal corporation whose name would have once struck terror into the hearts of the Ailianu natives, erased by entropy into illegible, crumbling orange oxide. Here we are, Ella said. I would never have thought it possible, not in 1,000 megasouls. I had to see the glory of Venusia with my own two eyes. Well, technically, my rented high-tech eyes as a service to believe it. Against the barren vastness of desertified sand dunes, a disk of rainbow mirage shimmered on the horizon. At first I mistook it for a trick of the light, a widget on the HUD of the Levitron's cockpit, perhaps a primary colored artifact in my own glitching ocular implants. I slapped the side of my head with the heel of my palm, but it didn't go away. Green. Actual green, not the green of radioactive waste leaking into a storm drain or through your roof, or the green of crystal lithium narcotics when you want to blue screen yourself catatonic and forget the pain and hopelessness of the world in Neoliberon. No, the actual green of organic life, viridescent green, olive green, emerald green, trees, bushes, plants, and grass, real live trees. I hadn't seen one in years outside of a museum. Not since I'd been off-world, defoliating some other planet's trees with napalm 50 caliber bullets in Agent Orange. And there were buildings, except something was wrong with the buildings. They weren't mile-high stratoscrapers of mirrored glass surrounded by drab, sprawling prison cell-like row houses. These buildings were of every conceivable shape and size and a color, each an art piece unto itself, each overflowing with thriving nature. Apartment complexes with banana trees, apples, grapevines, a dozen other varieties of fruit plant that I didn't even know what they were, blooming from every balcony. Bright blue aquaponic tanks brimming with fish, arrays of solar panels on every roof. Even solar chrome trees, murals covered almost every vertical surface, rainbow sunrises, trees, abstract patterns, little fluffy kitties. These are like the drawings of children before they get beat up and mugged in the street, get the art drilled out of them by the need to make money or their family breaks up in an economic downturn. We actually don't have that in the Egalite Cooperative. I'll explain. There are portraits of individuals. I recognize them from my military briefings. Wait, I know these people. Sybil Clinton Bush. She was neo-feudal royalty turned anarchist terrorist who caused havoc by the crime of redistributing trillionaires' wealth to the terrestrial poor. And that's Hugo Chavez. He killed 100 billion people on Earth with violent revolution and chemical weapons. And that's Bernie Sanders. He was another communist dictator who condemned America to die from universal health care, high taxes, and forced everybody to eat rats after central planning caused crop failures. Yeah, I remember these people. And did they also teach you that democracy causes cancer and that fossil fuel is what plants crave? Ella asked with a sardonic lilt. How did you know? I exclaimed. Where do the rich people live? Like, the CEOs, the bosses, the lords, the celebrities. Where are the leaders? We don't have those here in the Venusian Anarcho-Socialist Collective, Ella explained. Well, we don't all make identical salaries, but there is a maximum income of around 5 times the minimum wage, as voted on by the members of each sub-cooperative. We landed and got out of the air car. Amazingly, there was not a single homeless person in sight. What the fuck was wrong with this place? Despite the colorfulness, the streets were incredibly clean. Where do you keep all the piles of trash and dead bodies? Where are the tent cities? Where are all of the overdose opioid victims? Well, people just pick up after themselves and, treatment's not a problem if you do have a drug problem. It's amazing what happens when a community isn't alienated from itself, Ella commented. There were people of all shapes and sizes, species and colors. There was a conspicuous absence of howling police sirens, of cops bothering people standing on corners and throwing them into black vans. No roving gangs of punks and hoodlums looking to mug you or fascist mobs looking to smash up some immigrants. It was incredible. People were just like living their lives. So come on. This has to be some Potemkin village bullshit, right? This is a canned presentation for the tourists. This is socialism. There has to be some poverty, some people struggling, working 3 jobs to pay for housing or healthcare and childcare somewhere, right? Right? Venusia went on for several miles, and I found it difficult to navigate. Then I realized it was because there was no megastructure, no corporate arcology or floating golden palace or toroidal space station chateau with glittering quartz space elevator dominating a poverty-filled slum sprawl of the rest of the city. There was no architectural hierarchy, no massive centralization. We flew on the entire day, and the entire time I didn't discover a single person living in a tent. Not a single body, dead on the street from an OD, or a family living out of a tarp, despite countless obsolete model sentient machines and transgenic chimeras, xenomorphic species, and other people considered subhuman, or banned from immigration altogether in Neoliberon. Hey there, you live around here? I asked a family sitting and having a picnic. Yep, right up there. They pointed to a beautiful apartment that had to be at least 3 bedrooms facing a crystal blue lake with non-electric ducks swimming in it. The square footage alone would have cost 4 times my monthly salary in Neoliberon. So what do you do here? I'm a painter. I work in a hydroponic plant 4 hours a week. 4 hours? How the hell can you afford that apartment without being a son of a billionaire? 4 hours a week? Well, it's $200 a month, and I make $100 an hour. So there are price controls on rent, like most things. Plus, I get a bonus at the end of the month, usually $4 grand. $4 grand a month bonus? What? You workers get bonuses? What? That's only for the C-suite 1%ers. Well, all workers collectively own the means of production in Venusia, so any profit gets redistributed back to the worker owners. We're all executives, technically. Who decided that? What boss in their right mind would let you get away with that? You see, we collectively decided the profit split democratically, all the workers at the facility. The family continued, smiling cheerfully, as though nothing was completely back-asswards about any of this. But who is the boss? I shouted, emphasizing the capitals in the word boss, waving my hands in the air, probably looking increasingly ridiculous to the bystanders. Like I said, no one. We do have a rotating executive director. Okay, now we're talking. The executive director. Okay, I thought I was losing my mind there for a second. But the executive director is elected by the worker owners and rotates on a biannual basis at minimum, and we cap his payout at 4.5x the lowest paid employee. What? How is the top executive supposed to buy a luxury penthouse, or like bucketfuls of cocaine, or like expensive artwork by Van Gogh or one of those old dead people, or private space islands, or bribe government officials, or other stuff like that executives need to do? We don't have any of that here. We're not capitalists. By this time, I was beginning to see stars. My vision was graying out. I felt like I was hyperventilating, although I don't even have lungs. I felt like a giant crack in the wallpaper of what I understood was reality had opened up, and a set of a vast Truman Show was starting to come down. I don't believe it, I said, shaking, falling to the ground. Give him room! Get a humanoid EMT team down here, Ella shouted. The capitalist conditioned mind has trouble letting go. Just breathe, Nostromo, Ella said, her tumble of neon blue hair desaturating as phosphenes boiled across my vision. Graying out, her words were muted as though I was underwater or miles away. Don't call 911. I can't afford it. All healthcare is free here. Don't worry. The thought of not being bankrupted by a medical expense was too much for me to bear, and was what finally short-circuited my side brain, knocking me out. Anyway, I think I'll stop there. That's some Neofeud 2 world for you. It might not be an actual game, but that's just some ideas of the places that might show up and characters